Good morning. I hope you all are doing well. We've uh, we've had a crazy week here. So many folks getting sick on us. I feel bad too. There's a lot of people spend a lot of time working on the other building, getting ready for our VBS. I don't know if you've seen it or not. It's something to look at for sure. But we had a lot of people work very, very hard on that, and we up and canceled our VBS. May get our heads skinned over that one, but I don't think so, because most of the people that worked on it, they're sick right now. And all that fellowship wasn't good. Seems like they in close proximity and they all got sick. But we want to be sure to keep them in mind and be very grateful for all their labor. They labor hard for our sakes. And I, for one, appreciate it very much. Every year we have a absolutely outstanding display that they do. Jimmy Strong has a lot to do with it, but this year I think everybody was pretty heavily involved in making all the things they're using. But hopefully we'll get to do it again at a later date. But as Sean said, we've had to cancel. I've been writing sermons a lot the last 2 days. Things changed on me. Started out with the Beatitudes, wound up with an introduction to VBS. And then after we canceled it, I didn't even think of it till this morning about 7:30. Well, I don't need to preach about an introduction to VBS because we don't have a VBS. So I sat there for a few minutes and I jotted down some thoughts. It's only one slide long, so we'll see how this turns out. But I'm glad you're here, and I hope it's beneficial to you. Oh, this is the wrong chart. Wait, is it? No, maybe not. These are the titles of our VBS, what we're going to study whenever we get around to it. These various names that apply to our Lord, they all have a descriptive purpose to them. From these various titles, we learn different things about the same person. Sometimes I don't know that people understand that as well as we could. For example, every one of us have different descriptive titles. I'm a husband, I'm a son, I'm a father, and I'm a teacher. I'm a Tennessean, I'm an American. These are all descriptions of who I am, what makes me me. Well, the same thing is true about the Lord. He has various descriptive designations, and in each one of these we learn something about him. So it's going to be a very interesting VBS. We're using a workbook, and it's filled with information. I don't think we can get through it. I know one lesson is 49 slides. It'd be hard to, I usually go through about 8 to 10. So it's going to be very difficult to get through all of them. Our teachers, they got their hands full. What I wanted to talk about this morning for a few minutes with you is the fact that I believe in God. If I can say that and mean it, then there must be a reason why I believe in God. If someone asks me, why do you believe in God? I should give them an answer. I should be able to give them an answer. In 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 15, Peter says, sanctify the Lord God in your heart. Make God holy in your heart. And always be ready to give a reason for the hope that lies within you with meekness and fear. A reason. If I believe in God, there must be a reason why I believe in God. I could just say I believe in God without knowing that my belief in God is very, very, very shallow. Or I could have a reason for believing in God. And this is something I like to think about frequently in my life. I go back and I study apologetics quite often because we learn why belief in God is intelligent. You know, the idea of a Christian is a fool. We're foolish people. We believe in someone we can't see. We talk to someone we can't see. We study a book that's written by men. We're fools. There's no good reason to believe in God. Well, that's not true. The exact opposite is the fact. It's logical to believe in God. It's reasonable, rational to believe in God. The Bible says the fool said in his heart that there is no God. I used to think that was a very harsh statement years ago, but it is true. A person has to reduce themselves to the fool level to say that there is no God and actually believe it, because the evidence is overwhelming. The fact that God is, he must be. When you look at the evidence, that's the only conclusion we can draw. Rational, logical conclusion is that God is. And I want to give you 5 reasons. I jotted these particular 5 down because they're easy, and I hope you'll commit them to memory. And if someone ever asks you why you believe in God, you can tell them. You can give them a reason for your belief in God. And I assure you, the arguments are sound. They can't be defeated. Nobody can prove that your belief is unsound, because it's not. It's really not. Let's think about this for a moment. Matter demands a maker. Matter, that's matter. We got the stand here, okay? How did it get here? Somebody had to manufacture it. Somebody had to cut down a tree and shape the tree and put the tree together in order for this stand to exist. We know that it didn't just happen. We know that somebody didn't just throw a stick of dynamite in a tree and this is what came of it. That's really foolish, is it not? Well, when you talk about evolution and things like that, basically that's what you're saying. That this stand came from nothing. There was nothing and suddenly there was something. And that was this stand. Now, I don't believe that, and you don't believe that. Why would we believe that the universe came from nothing? There's so many things about the universe, and I'm not going to get into it because that does get a little bit confusing. But so many things about the universe that teaches us that it's not an accident. It's not happenstance. The theory of evolution is only that, a theory. And it's not a very good theory. Personally, I don't think it qualifies as a theory. Because a theory is something that's been tested somewhat. How do you test the origin of the universe? You can't do that. It's never been tested. So how could it be a theory? It's not a theory, it's a guess. Somebody guessed. They didn't want to believe in God, so they made a guess. And they guessed that something came from nothing. But that's not right. That's unscientific. That's illogical. That's irrational. Everything they say about us, their finger points back to them, because it's just not true. In science, there's the law of cause and effect. There's a lot of laws, and they're based on knowledge, factual knowledge. That's what science is, factual knowledge. Uh, there's a lot of laws in science. The laws are good. The laws are sound. I'd like to think that most scientists are decent, good people. All of them are not. It's just like any other field. There's no such thing as not having crooked or unscrupulous people in any field. The field of preaching, for example. You're going to find unscrupulous people in the field of preaching. You find them in the field of science, too. You find them in every field, teachers, doctors, you name it. There's going to be some people that are not really good people. But there are a lot of people in science that are good, and they do good stuff. They find ways of helping us to be healthier, find ways of helping us to survive physical ailments or problems we might experience. They find ways to save lives. They're good people, and they do good stuff. But when it comes to the realm of creation and how things came to be, honesty and integrity can be put to the test, and they will be found wanting. The law of cause and effect declares that something doesn't come from nothing. If there is an effect, if the table, the stand exists, there must be a cause. Well, we all agree with that. It didn't just happen, it didn't just appear. Someone had to make it happen. And you know that's sound reasoning. Well, why not apply the same reasoning to the universe? It's common sense. But sometimes that gets in the way of some people in science. The law of cause and effect states every physical effect must have an adequate antecedent or simultaneous cause. The creek is out of banks. It's going wild. Water taking out trees, stuff's going down the creek like crazy. And someone says, "What happened?" And you say, "A frog jumped in the creek and it caused all this disturbance." And have you lost your mind? How could a frog cause such disturbance? The frog is not an adequate explanation. There has to be a cause. There has to be something that adequately can make that happen. For example, there could have been a big downpour, a big storm up the way. And now the water is running violently out of the banks. Well, I can accept that. Well, it may not be true. It's right, it may not be true, but it's reasonable. I can accept that as an explanation for what happened. It's got to be an adequate cause. It's got to be antecedent, or it's got to be simultaneous. In other words, the cause has to happen, has to be, exist, either at the same time the effect did or before. If I say that the stand was produced by men, well, that's a plausible explanation, because the men were there before the stand was there. The men made the stand a reality. They had the power, they had the ability, they had the knowledge to make the stand a reality. If I said that the men came after the stand, you would say, well, that doesn't make any sense, because it doesn't. It's got to come before. And that's what the law of cause and effect states. Every effect must have an adequate antecedent or simultaneous cause. Something that was present to make the stand become a reality. And so it is with matter. If matter exists, and it does, you exist, there must be a cause. There must be an adequate cause. There must be a cause that existed before you did. Apply that to anything you want to, and it's going to stand. It's a scientific law. It's based on factual knowledge. And it's always right. Well, what about the theory of evolution? It's neither adequate nor is it antecedent or simultaneous with the creation. A Big Bang took place. They say a little bitty ball of a thing, very small, one day exploded and started expanding some 14 billion years ago, and it's been expanding ever since. And the world you and I live in and the universe we observe just keeps going and going and going. The little bitty ball, very small, very minute, just bang, and everything you see came into existence. They want us to believe that. You don't believe that because it doesn't make any sense. And then you still got the question that's got to be answered. Where did the little ball come from? And there's no plausible answer to the question. Science has come up woefully short in any attempt to produce solid, sound reasoning as to why the universe exists. When they tell you you're not bright, especially in school, they do this to students a lot. When they tell you you're not bright, you're not intelligent, you're foolish, you don't deserve to be in my class, get out of my room. Anybody that believes in an unseen God is a fool. Don't be persuaded. Don't let them affect you. Because you believe in God, your reasoning is solid, it's sound. And don't let them make you think otherwise. Matter demands a maker. If there is a universe, there must be a universe maker. If there is a stand, there must be a stand maker. If there is a you, there must be someone who made you. If there's a light bulb, there must be a light bulb maker. It applies to everything. It's sound, simple logic. It's so easy that it doesn't seem possible. But it is. When somebody asks you why you believe in God, because matter demands a maker. A creation demands a creator. It's easy. It's very simple. Number 2, life demands a life giver. Again, we'll go to the field of science. There's a lot of things I could allude to. I've just picked only one because I only had about 30 minutes to do this. The law of biogenesis is another law of science. Biogenesis composed of 2 words, bio, which means life, genesis, which means the beginning. It is the beginning of life, or the study of the beginning of life. That's what biogenesis is. The law is the rule of discovery when it comes to biogenesis. It says in nature, this is what science has discovered, in nature, life comes only from previous life, and that of its own kind. If there's grass, there is other grass that produced the seed that produced the grass. The same thing's true about a tree. If a tree's standing, there's another tree that produced a seed that caused that tree to be. When it comes to people, you. There are two other people who caused you to exist. But one thing about this life, producing life, is that the life that you are came from a life that is very similar to you, your mother and father. You may look like them. You may think like them. You may act like them. There's a lot of traits, characteristics you may pick up from the two people that gave you life. There are qualities you share that they possessed according to the law of biogenesis. Well, apply the law to us. We are living beings. Somewhere, somehow, there is a being or beings that caused us to come into existence, and we share some of the qualities of the being that caused us to be. That would be, of course, God from our point of view. There are characteristics or qualities about God that you and I possess. And the scriptures teach as much. We were made in the image of God. We have certain qualities that are very much like God. Whether or not we develop those qualities, that's up to us. But we possess those qualities. A dog doesn't possess it. Dogs are different than you and I. Dogs are not stupid creatures. Isabella's got a dog. We call her Princess. She stays with me a lot of the time. I don't know how. I honestly don't know how. But this animal has got an instinct to protect. She's protected my grandchildren ever since she's been with us. I'll give you an example. A couple of days ago, I got one of them side-by-side things called a Rhino. Avery and Hayden got into that thing and took off driving it. Well, the dog didn't like them driving it because they're too small. Only big people drive that thing. Small people are not supposed to, at least in the mind of that dog. Well, when you go around my driveway, there's a narrow spot. On one side there's a hill, the other side there's a drop-off. And that dog didn't want those children on that side-by-side. And there was no way she could stop them. How are you going to stop a rhino? So she went to this narrow place. They're running around. She went to this narrow place. She laid down across the driveway. And the only way those two kids could get past her was to run her over. And she laid down, was going to let them kids run her over. I suppose if she could talk, she'd say, I wish they'd stop. But apparently she was prepared to get run over. And she did what she wanted to do. She stopped them. And BR had to holler at her. And when she seen it was okay with BR, she let him go. But instinctively, she didn't want those kids to drive that thing. And she's going to get them off of it. She's been doing this ever since she's been with us. Dogs are not dumb creatures. They have a capacity about them I can't explain, but they do. Life demands that there is a life giver. And Princess, she possessed characteristics of her parents. She's, I get this wrong, I know, Grand Pyrenees, one of them big old white dogs. Okay, that's right. Okay, she's a Grand Pyrenees dog, and she looks like her mom and daddy. I think they all look alike, actually. I think they're all white and big. And this is the way life works. This is the way life works for us. Now, when you're thinking about our origin, life sprung from God, therefore we possess qualities that God possesses. We are made in the image of God. We've got a different rules that we live by. We have a moral code, for example, that we live by, which means that God also has a moral code that he lives by. There are so many things you can learn, but the point to keep in mind is that life only comes from life. We exist somewhere back yonder. Life made us exist. There's a being that transcends time. There's a being that is not a part of this universe. And this being made life on earth for human beings a reality. That's the only way it can be. It can be no other way. According to science, it can be no other way, according to the law of biogenesis. Number 3, design demands a designer. A painting demands a painter. I've never seen the painter. I don't know anything about the painter. I don't know if it's a man or a woman. I don't know if there was 1 or 3. I don't know if they were black or white. I don't know anything whatsoever about the painter. But I know there's a painter. Why? Because the painting exists. If there's a house, there must be a house builder. If there's a clock, there must be a clock builder. Everything we see, we know that behind that object, someone created that thing. It's simple, it's common sense, but it demonstrates that God is. It's foolish to believe that a painting exists without a painter. That's just foolish. It's equally foolish to believe that a universe exists without a universe maker. There has to be mind beyond the object under consideration. Michael Shermer, who's, I don't think he's an atheist. Let's say he's a skeptical agnostic. But he wrote, the reason people think a designer created the world is because the world looks like it was designed. Sometimes some of the statements I read from very intelligent people are, well, they make you get tickled a little bit. You laugh a little bit because sometimes it seems a little silly. Well, I found this quotation to be that way. The universe looks like it was designed, and therefore some people think it was designed. But there wasn't a designer. There was an explosion. And from the explosion, everything exists as it exists. Now, that's not reasonable. Our children are taught it, usually by people that don't really understand what they're teaching. Sometimes people can be confused because of what they hear. But simply put, the arguments in favor of God does not exist are not sound arguments, and you don't have to be ashamed. The psalmist said, the heavens declare the glory of God. The firmament shows his handiwork. You want to know if God exists? Look at what he created. Look at your finger. I remember years ago I read about a German scientist who became a believer. And what converted him was one day he was sitting at breakfast and he had a new baby in the house. And while he was eating his cereal, he got to looking at the ear of that baby. He looked at the detail of the ear, how it was designed to be a receptacle of sound. And he said, as I looked at that ear, it dawned on me, someone designed it, because it's an instrument that works perfectly for the job it was put there to do. And he took a whole new approach in his thinking about God. And he started studying about God in a rational way. And in time, he actually became some type of Christian. I'm not sure which. But let's say he became a believer in God. Isaiah said, lift up your eyes on high, and you'll see who has created these things. Where did it come from? Where did the tree come from? What came first, the chicken or the egg? I tell you what, the chicken did. God created everything full grown. I'm not concerned about which came first. He created the chicken, and the chicken was capable of laying eggs. End of that question. Number 4, intelligence demands an intelligent creator. You and I are intelligent beings. We have the capacity to think and to reason. We can do things with our minds that nothing else can, except God. Made in the image of God. This is one of those characteristics of God, is intelligence. Now, his intelligence is by far superior to ours, but he's an intelligent being. And all you have to do is look at the creation and see the intelligence of God. I listen to scientists a lot of times talk about the way the universe works, like how the earth moves throughout the year, the different ways that it moves. And if it got off course just very little, we would be too close to the sun and we would be burned up. Or if it got a little bit, just a little bit away in the other direction, we would be off course and we would freeze to death because we're too far from the sun. The movement of the earth is so precise that life can be sustained on this planet. That took a designer. Someone figured out how to do that. And that someone is God. Think about God in that way, about all the various things you see. Think about the intelligence of your Creator. Morality demands a moral lawgiver. Where did morals come from? Well, that's a dumb question. No, it's not really. Where did moral come from? I asked my boss one time that question. He said, well, it's the general thinking of people. Well, if that's true, that means that morals fluctuate. They're constantly changing because people are different. And depending on the general attitude of the population, that's going to determine what is morally acceptable or unacceptable. But the big problem with morals coming from man is this. If we are the origin of morals, then what I think to be morally right, you might think to be morally wrong. Which one of us is right? And which one of us is wrong? To believe that morals is a subjective thing is to believe that every person is a god. Every person decides for himself what is right or wrong. How do you arrest a person for murder when that person believes it's morally right to murder the individual they murdered. How can you charge them of a crime when they committed no crime? At least not in their mind. Morals have to be subjective or objective, one or the other. Either morals arise within every individual, or there is an objective standard of morality. There is someone who is not a part of the universe that you and I live in. There is someone who imposes his standard of morality on the rest of us. He did it when he made us in his own image. He did it through his book of rules. If we're going to say that morality arises within man, there is no right or wrong. As long as you believe something to be right, it's right. If you believe rape is right, then for you it's right. Go do it. You know, there's actually been people that have gotten off the hook, so to speak, who have raped a person, and based on evolution, has argued that what they did was right to do because this is what they wanted to do. You don't arrest a bull for forcing himself upon a cow. How could you arrest a man for imposing himself upon a woman? And they actually had no jail time. Now, it doesn't happen very often, but it has happened. And the argument's sound. When we tried Germany after World War II, what law were they tried by? They were in Germany. Do you try them by German law? Or does America try Germans by American law? There's got to be a law by which you can judge someone. How can you judge Hitler? What do you judge him by? There was only one way that they could try the Nazis after World War II. They appealed to the law of God. They appealed to the higher law, the objective law. And of course, they violated God's law. But the hypocrisy of it was voluminous. Many claiming there is no God, and in order to be able to try the Germans, they made an appeal to the law of God. It was hypocrisy in the nth degree. They should have been tried. They should have been arrested. They should have been punished. But the question was, how are we going to do it? By what law? Your faith in God, and this is what I want you to go away with. Your faith in God is very sound. You do not have to be ashamed. Now, you may not be able to give a lengthy explanation as to why you believe in God, but I've given you 5 reasons that you can give as to why you believe in God. When someone asks you for the reason of the hope that lies within you, your belief in God, you can respond to them. And they're not going to be able to prove that your responses are not adequate. You just can't do it. But don't be ashamed of your faith. Never be ashamed of your faith. Never, ever, never. Because we are not fools and we are not foolish. There was a time when I was an agnostic. Didn't know if God existed or not. Those days are long gone. I've been examining the evidence for many years now, and I'm more confident than ever that God is, that the Bible is the inspired Word of God, and that Jesus Christ is the Son of God who came into the world to die for our sins. He did, he was buried, and he was raised never to die again. And that he gives you and I the opportunity to follow him. Follow him. Don't waste your God-given opportunity. Know God, love God, and walk with God. Please. If you're not a Christian, I would advise you to become a Christian. Put away whatever hinders you and go for what you believe to be right. Difficult, yes. Possible, absolutely. If you, in your own mind and heart, if you want to be a part of the family of God and you're tenacious, you will be a part of God's family and you will live with him in heaven. As Christians, life is up and down, okay? It's up and down. Sometimes we do wrong stuff. But we can't kick ourselves in the teeth. Be ashamed, yes. Embarrassed, of course. Apologetic, without a doubt. But never, ever, ever give up on yourself. Because Jesus thought you were worth everything he went through. I beg you with all my heart, learn to love God.